Welcome everybody to the Therapy Dogs Otter Talk. It's Otter Talk number 22. And tonight we have Eileen and her panel of experts. I'm going to hand it over to you, Eileen. Go ahead and introduce yourself and introduce your panel, and we'll go from there.
I'm Eileen Glennon, and what we thought we'd do is we're going to talk about various aspects of therapy work with your dog. And so each person, as they talk about their own section, will introduce themselves. We're going to begin with Joni Bernard. Joni, wave. And she's going to talk about what is a therapy dog as opposed to a service dog or a companion animal dog or any of the other kind of dogs that are running around with emotional support. So Joni, would you like to introduce yourself and talk about therapy dogs?
Sure. My name is Joni Bernard, and I have a PhD in animal science, and I teach at Michigan State University part-time. I've been an assistant professor there since 1995, and I teach a lot of zoo and aquarium science nutrition, and I also teach some lab classes in companion animal training and what different working animals do. And so today I was asked to talk about the difference between service animals, comfort or emotional support animals, and therapy animals. And there's actually some pretty major differences because service animals are legally defined by the Americans with Disability Act. And in order to have a service animal, you must have a disability that qualifies under the Americans with Disabilities. And in that case, you may have a service animal, which has in recent years been limited to dogs and in some cases, mini horses. And a service animal has legal rights. A service animal can accompany a person with a disability in any place that public may go. And they can't be denied access by law. And the only way that they have to be identified is to be told that they are a service animal to the person in charge. And if it is questioned, the only thing that can be asked, they cannot ask directly about disability. They can ask if you have a disability that this dog works for under the Americans with Disability Act. And then they can ask two questions, or they can ask what to provide examples of two functions that this dog does that are specific to that disability. It can't just be that my dog sits pretty. They actually have to have a function that is directly related to the disability of the person. An emotional support animal, so that's service animals for one individual and does specific functions. Emotional support, comfort animal, or assistance animal are all kind of the same definition. And they fall under, originally under the Housing Act in the United States. And it's also a legal definition. And originally the intent of having these animals was so as our population ages, that people who had pets who required them and they were a big part of their support system would be able to take them when they had moved into facilities that had no pets allowed. It was expanded in many different ways, including airlines who have recently gone back on that and no longer allow anything but service animals. But emotional support assistance animals do not have any special training. They are a glorified pet. They work for the one person. They live with that person, and housing cannot be denied in most cases if you can document that this is an emotional support animal and have the proper documentation for it. Therapy animals, which is what we're talking about tonight, are a completely different aspect. There is no legal definition for a therapy animal. A therapy animal works with their handler. They are not for a specific person. They are to give comfort in situations like a hospice or a hospital, school, for reading programs. There's a variety of programs. They might work with a therapist. And they work with a huge number of people often. They aren't specific to one person. And they have typically a lot of training. And if they are registered with any of the national therapy animal groups, they have to pass rigorous tests to be registered with these groups. And they most often have a lot more training than an emotional support or assistance animal. Service animals typically are trained specifically for their function. Therapy animals typically have a broader training for being ready for any situation. And I think that's what I was asked to cover. Did that cover everything, Eileen?
I think it covered everything very well. Thank you.
It was very nice.
So that's our general overview. So that brings us to Angie, who's going to talk about what kind of personality or temperament makes a great therapy dog. So Angie, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes.
And you could talk about what kind of dogs are great therapy dogs.
Okay. I'm Angie Bixler. I'm in central Pennsylvania. I have had Oakley for 4 years, I believe. 4 years. Yep. And actually Oakley's grandpa is Tom. So I started with therapy dog work back in 2011. And my first therapy dog was an Irish Wolfhound. And she was fantastic. I specialize in a whole bunch of different areas. The only thing that I really don't like to do a lot is hospice care, because I don't know why. I guess it just reflects me back to my mother, and I can't do hospice care. Hospice is just something I can't do. But for the type of dog, obviously Irish Wolfhound, Otterhound, they have the same personalities. They're very calm, very oh well, like we always call Oakley Eeyore, like she's like, oh bother, and she's perfect for this. I personally feel that if your dog, and this is one of the tests that they do, if they slam a book down or a pots and pans, or they do something like that, if your dog goes, oh my God, what was that? Or they freak out, that is not the type of dog that you want to put into a situation with a therapy dog situation. You don't want a dog that's going to be skitsy. You want an easy, calm, laid back dog. Most dogs are not trained to be therapy dogs until they're a year old. They require the dog to be a year old for obviously puppy reasons. You want to make sure that you have a well-groomed dog with nice, well-groomed toenails and everything, because if you're going into the nursing homes, the thin skin and everything with the older folks, you have to be careful of that situation. Also, we do a lot with school. So Oakley is absolutely fantastic because she absolutely adores kids. So, the kids are running around and, they're just all over the place. And Oakley she loves it. She eats it all up. Oakley is my Otterhound and she eats it all up. She loves it. I've had 5 different therapy dogs so far. And I have to honestly say, Oakley, just when it's time for her to put that vest on, she is raring to go. So an Otterhound is an absolute amazing therapy dog. And if you don't leave therapy dog work without a smile on your face and you feel good within your heart, then there's something wrong with you, because I'm telling you, therapy dog work is the most amazing, rewarding work that you could possibly ever do. You love your dog. You want to share your dog with somebody. Sharing your dog with somebody who needs that help is the most amazing thing you could ever do. So I would honestly say, if your dog seems like they love everybody, they don't have to love other dogs. You're not supposed to have contact with other dogs. So you don't have to worry about now. I mean, I wouldn't take your dog if they want to attack another dog within 6 feet, but you have to keep a certain length of space between your dog and another dog. So if your dog's not happy with the presence of another dog, that's not a big deal. You just don't put yourself in that situation. But if your dog absolutely loves to give love to another human being, perfect situation for you. I personally did not go with an international. I went with a local group because our goal was to get into the Hershey Medical Center because my fiance wanted to do work with the cancer kids. So we went with our local therapy dog group because they were the only ones that got approval to get into Hershey Medical Center.
Okay. Thank you very much. Uh,
Thanks.
And your big fan here, Grandpa, I thought we would go to Tom, who bred Oakley, and he's going to talk more about the benefits of therapy animals.
Okay, I have Creed. He's my therapy dog, and we've been doing it for about 5 years now. I did get Tips tested, but she's a little too food motivated and just a little too hyper, I think, for going in there. Because as Angie said, every time you go in, it's a different situation. We've tried quite a few different situations, and I was just going to kind of put that in perspective and just mention a couple things. If you look up therapy dogs and some of the benefits that they can bring different groups of people, it's quite extensive, and I didn't know until I started actually reading about it. I'm not going to get into a lot of the technical stuff that they mentioned, but they do have an extremely positive effect on people that are subjected to the therapy dog visit, and it's all very positive. So basically, start out with, I think, as Angie said, the Otterhounds love kids, and all three of mine are absolutely fantastic with kids. Creed just loves kids, and some of the things that we've done with it is went to elementary schools, and Creed would sit, and the kids would come around and read to him, and he just ate that up. He'd just sit there and lay down and lay on his side. They'd scratch him and have a good time, and each kid take a turn reading to him. And he was great with that. But that's one way. But the idea is the kids get to read, and usually they send down the kids that have a little trouble with the reading, and they read out loud. And again, it's a big benefit to them. I guess it relaxes them and helps them concentrate more on their reading. The other one, and I've done this a couple times, is special needs kids. And you got to watch this, because some of the kids don't understand what a dog is, or it can get that much. But again, it's extremely beneficial. And as Angie said too, every time you do these things, it just puts a big smile on your face to see the kids react and bring a smile to themselves also. But especially need kids, again, it just helps with their confidence and everything else. And a lot of times when you go to one place after another, they get to know the dog or know you, and they look forward to this happening. So that's kind of part of that part. Next one is young adults. One of the things we've done is taken Crane to college, our local college up here, for test week or exam week. And we'd sit outside, and all the college kids would come in. Now, that was Creed's favorite thing to do, was with the college kids, because they're a lot more, they get down in the dog's level, and they play, they wrestle, or whatever they do. And he just has a great time with them. And again, the kids all like that, and they enjoy doing that part of it. Let's see, other things are real quick here. Okay, the thing we're doing now, which is to me one of the most rewarding for me to see, is we go to visit some elderly people at a local elderly place center. Yeah, exactly. And we go there every Tuesday night, and that's pretty much, we try to do that. Get a little hot here, and we kind of been skipping, as you said, Rob. In summertime, you get less people, and it's a little more difficult to do it. But I think the first time I did it with a place like this, we went in and we were walking around, and basically we go into some rooms, one dog at a time, and people want to see the dogs. And we went upstairs and went into a giant room, good size, and they have a big TV, and everybody was sitting in their wheelchairs and on the couch and everything, just watching TV. And it really kind of tugs at your heart to see the people just with nothing, you know, this is their life now. They have nothing to do. And when the dogs come, it's a huge, huge excitement for most of them. Now, some, they don't want to see the dog, you know, they'll, no. But some of them, it's just amazing how it brings out. They'll tell you, oh, I miss my dogs. Look at this dog. Oh, he's so fantastic and fun. And they miss, you know, they miss their dogs, or they miss their time having a dog, or somebody has their dog, can't see it. So it's a lot of fun. They get to know the dogs by name. They call them. One thing I do with Creed is he knows some tricks. We do some tricks in front of everybody, and that's a fun thing to do too. But Creed just loves it. And as Angie said, Otterhounds just seem to be natural at this. Now it's a little difficult. Again, you bring Creed into a room and there's the person's having their lunch. First thing they go over, oh, hey, give me some lunch. So that's a thing you got to keep, you got to constantly work on. But the people that you do bring the dogs to, they just love to see the dogs, and it just becomes, if you do it regularly, it just becomes just a fun thing. And again, for us, it's just a very rewarding thing to bring your dog regularly. They become fantastic people dogs. They learn to get along with everybody, and it's just excellent training and working that way. As Angie said, if you can't smile after you go to a place and see the dogs, it's watch the people's faces, and what they do is just amazing. So that's kind of all I had. There's other things. I have some people that brought their dog to prisons. Not sure where else they can go, but there's a lot of different things that you can take your dog to for this type of work, but it's very rewarding. And that's all I had.
Thank you, Tom.
Yay.
I'm going to do some nitty gritty. I'm going to talk about why a dog should be evaluated as a therapy dog. But before I do that, I should tell you who I am. I'm Eileen Glennon. I've been doing therapy work since 2005. Like Joni, I'm an evaluator of therapy dogs, and I also instruct therapy workshops. I lost my two therapy dogs within 4 months during COVID. So I Spirit just became a therapy dog this summer. So we're off on another journey. Most of us, Angie mentioned who she is affiliated with a local group. I know Joni is affiliated and evaluates for Pet Partners, correct? And Tom?
I have the same thing. It's more of a local out of New Jersey.
Okay, you have a local group, and I work with ITA, Intermountain Therapy Animals, which broke away from Pet Partners. And there's a number of reasons why you should be affiliated with a group. I think, first of all, it's very helpful for you to know and to be reinforced in your assessment of your own dog. You may think your dog is the greatest dog and loves everybody, but it's very nice to put them through their paces in a therapy evaluation to make sure that they do. So basically about half of it is basic obedience, your dog walking on a loose lead, sitting, downing, coming when called. In evaluation, you are always on lead because your dog is always on lead when you are visiting. So the other real advantage of being evaluated is most evaluations give you a scenario-based part of the test where you get to kind of mime or go through a possible visit. And you learn an awful lot about things. One, you learn how your dog reacts to wheelchairs, how your dog reacts to people in funny hats, and they have to react well with them, as well as how your dog reacts when somebody drops a plate or when people are shouting at each other. Unfortunately, that happens sometimes when you're on a visit. Not everybody is always in a good mood. And will your dog go up to somebody who's been shouting? Those are the things that an evaluation can show you. That's very helpful, I think. I think it also trains the person to do things like not to promise that you'll be back tomorrow when you won't be. And to be careful of what you ask somebody. So if you're in a memory care unit, which probably most of us have been to, you get used to not saying, "Did you have a dog?" or "What was your dog's name?" because that frustrates people. So what you learn is what you should say, what you can say, that won't agitate somebody or put them on the defensive if they don't have a great memory at this point. So there's a lot of benefits to the evaluation just for your development. I think the other thing, and you heard this from both Angie and Tom, that once you become part of a group, you get open access to various places that need therapy dogs. It's difficult to be a lone ranger and find places. So if you are part of a group, you go to a children's hospital, Angie, because there's a group that you belong to. All of us, I think, have found places to go because there's a group behind us that people can turn to and say, "We need a therapy dog for our special ed class," or "We need a therapy dog for Dr. Seuss, or for Dr. Seuss night at the local school, or for a regular therapy visit, or I have a hospice patient who really wants a dog to visit." And I have done hospice, and yes, it's hard, but sometimes you just tell yourself you have done for somebody what you hope somebody will do for you if you're ever in that position. And I think that's one reason we all do it, because we know we would like a dog if we ever end up in a nursing home, and we would love to have a dog come visit. So so there's a lot of good things about making connections, getting information about yourself and your dog. I think there's one other big advantage in that groups insure you. And I know that sounds silly. Yes, your dog is very good. Yes, your dog has been evaluated. But I think Angie mentioned a lot of people have paper thin skin. They are on Coumadin or something, and your dog is a big dog and it goes high, and all of a sudden they're bleeding. So these are the things that it's a good thing to be part of a group, to have an evaluation that says my dog can do this, and so that you're covered in. And let's face it, sometimes your dog might lick somebody's hand and they say, your dog bit me. Again, your dog didn't bite the person, but you need that kind of protection. So just because your dog was great with your great Aunt Martha and visiting some relative, when you go generally into places where you don't know the people, that kind of insurance is invaluable, I think. And finally, what I guess I would just say is, I think the therapy evaluation tells you if you want to do this. And I've known teams where the dog was wonderful, and the person realized after her dog was evaluated and was a great therapy dog, and she started working, that she worked with people every day and she just didn't want to socialize in her spare time. She was an introvert. So I think maybe we should stress that this is a team sport, that you both have to be ready and interested and want to do it, if that helps at all. So that's all I have to say.
Can I come full circle and add to what I said?
Yes, you
Or add to some other things?
sure.
Not to what I said. I already covered that, but I guess I'm feeling like an old lady with you all, because I've been doing therapy work since 1983. Um,
Great.
and I've been an evaluator since 2009. So I've done a little bit of everything, and not just with dogs. I've taken a lot of animals in there, and I respect all of your opinions very much, but I do have to say that not all Otterhounds are going to make a great therapy dog. Let's be realistic. To me, one of the most important things for a therapy dog is natural empathy. And my first Otterhound, I had him registered as a therapy dog in 2000, and he was, or it was into 2000. He was almost 2 years old, and it took that long. Because he was difficult to get him to actually want to do it, and I wasn't sure he was going to. So not all dogs, and being able to train a dog to do obedience or to have manners is very different than training them. But like Eileen said, you have to be a team. And if the dog doesn't want to do it and you really want to do it, you kind of need to find a different dog. So I think those are kind of important. And sorry, I didn't mean to step on anybody's toes. I just wanted to make sure.
That's
No.
a great point.
Yeah, yeah, I'll add to that real quick. Like
Some dogs just don't want to do it. They just don't.
Right.
with Tips is because of her, she's super friendly and nice and happy, but she's not, to me, someone that would do the therapy thing very well because of her, lady has a snack in her hand to give the dog, she'd be over there grabbing it out of her hand. She's just too aggressive that way. And then how she's just a little bit on the hyper side. And I'd be worried that she knocks somebody over or something like that. So I really haven't had her out yet, but maybe she's 5 now, maybe in another couple of years, she might want to do it. Wait until it's fine, but Creed very
when
well.
she's ready.
Yeah.
And I can add to this too. I've always had several therapy dogs in my household at the same time. My Newfoundland is, I'm in leadership program right now to learn how to be a leadership for training new teams. But my Newfoundland is getting ready to be tested, and I don't know if she's going to pass because she's crazy. But there's different situations and different scenarios for each of my dogs. Zen, I don't take to the elementary school because the kids just want to, like they want to hug her. They all crowd around her, even though you say, 2 at a time, they all just want to crowd. Oakley doesn't mind being crowded. Zen is just like, wait a minute, these kids are my eye level. And, she's an Irish Wolfhound, and she gets a little freaked out when there's, 8 or 10 kids coming to maul her. So she's not the one. Now I'll take her if it's a smaller, but she's perfect when we go to the Chewy warehouse. We go to Chewy for second shift at Chewy always asks us to come down, and we always sit in their room when they're changing shifts. And the guys, everybody comes over. They know my dog's names now, and it's a lot of fun. The older people at the nursing home, they know my dog's names too. But Oakley and Zen are both great with nursing home. If it's a tight space in a nursing home, Zen doesn't like to go into tight spaces, but I taught her backup. So, if she goes between the bed and the wall, you got to train your dog to go between the bed and the wall, or you go between the 2 beds. If you know that you're going to be in a situation, don't take your dog between the bed and the wall during testing if you don't think your dog is good between tight spaces, and you'll learn all that stuff. And they teach you, if your dog's licking their nose, they're not in a comfortable situation, they're not comfortable, they'll teach you that stuff. And usually 45 minutes to an hour is basically the time frame, and then that's enough for a dog.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. When I started, I think Joni and I once had litter mates that were certified at 13 and 14 months, somewhere around there. And they just were that way. Now I know ITA only does not evaluate under 18 months.
Oh.
And I think, especially with the READ program, and that is a separate program that you should well, I have been evaluated for read dogs, and that's where the laid back older dog shines, because the dog lies down and the kids come up to read to them. And as Tom said, dogs are not judgmental. So kids who are awkward about reading, they don't have a problem reading to a dog. And but they don't want to read in front of their peers in class. So it's very beneficial, but that's precisely where you need the really laid back dog who's just going to lie there and have kids read to them for over an hour. Various kids don't usually read for an hour, but those are special. So the nice thing about therapy dogs is dogs can do therapy work when they're old, quite old, because it's not a physically demanding, it's an emotionally demanding. And I like the idea about, there are dogs that have great empathy and they know who in the room. Angie, you mentioned this, or so did Joni. They know which person in the room needs them sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to see them hone in on that person.
Yeah, I was just gonna mention-
And I want to say about evaluations, you mentioned about being evaluated. Evaluators, a good evaluator also, I don't know I think your group does it, Eileen. I'm not sure if all of them do. There's sometimes put limits on your certificate or your registration, which says that you're qualified, but no small children, or so that it's clearly stated when you go into a place and you show your ID, it says that I can be here, and this is, and I think it's also important for the organizations that we have for pet partners and for your group. I know most of the national groups do it now, not all of them. Every 2 years, you have to be re-registered and retested. And a lot of people think that's a big pain, and they were avoiding it for a long time because there's some organizations, you just send them your money and you get your new registration every year. And we really need outside people to look at our dogs every year. I have somebody else look at my dogs, because you get into a pattern and things start to slide and you don't notice when you're on your own. You need an outside evaluator to look at your animal, look at your situation, and look at your partnership and make sure you're still good. At least every 2 years. With older dogs, sometimes every year, because you might have a dog that has painful leg and you don't notice that the little kid poked him in the leg and they turn around and react.
Yeah. A good point. Yeah. And I think if people are thinking about where to go to evaluate, do find a place that requires you to retest every couple of years. Yeah.
And even if you're not interested in the national groups, most of the national groups will post, you can watch YouTube videos of an evaluation so you can see what they do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I've just got 2 feel-good stories. I'll make them fast. But during COVID, we were asked to come down to UPMC, which is one of our pretty big hospitals, not to do therapy work for the patients, but to do it for the doctors and the nurses. And let me tell you, that was amazing, because we just went from floor to floor. They knew we were coming. Tom actually came with us the one time, and we just had a fantastic time. And we were just doing therapy dog work for the nurses and the doctors. And let me tell you, they just ate it up. They were on the floor with the dogs, down laying with the dogs. Oakley, I think, schlecked the one doctor from his chin to his forehead and both ears and back. And he just ate it up. It was just amazing. And then my second feel-good story, one of my big bosses at my health insurance company, her husband fell. He was a construction worker, and he fell off the roof of a building he was working at, and he fell 30 feet on his head, and had traumatic brain injury. And he was in a vegetative state, where he lay there and he would just look straight ahead. Like there was no reactions to him whatsoever. And they knew that I did therapy dog work with my Irish Wolfhound, and they asked me to come down because he loved dogs, and obviously his dog couldn't come into the hospital. So I took Jules down to the hospital, and she went up to the bed and she laid her head on his chest. And when he went to, like, they put his hand on her, but he didn't do it. They did it for him. And when she went to pull away, he actually took his finger and looped his finger around the D-ring on her collar. And everybody turned around, like, I got chills even talking about it. Everybody turned around and just started bawling, because that was the first human reaction that this man did in weeks. Like, he just laid in that bed and that's all he did. And he stuck his finger around her D-ring. He didn't want her to leave. And that's one of those stories where if you love your dog and you want your dog to do something for somebody, therapy dog is your job. Yeah, as long as your dog, like Joni said, is in the same position and you guys can make a good team and make a go of it. Yeah, it's an amazing thing to do.
Yep, I agree.
Are we allowed questions?
Yeah, I'd love to hear
I'm
questions.
gonna, before you ask a question, I'm gonna ask a question too. So if somebody after watching this presentation thinks that they might have a amazing candidate for a therapy dog, what should they do? What process should they take?
Eileen?
To that.
Well, I would go online because that's the easiest, and I would look up therapy dog organizations. And nowadays, everything on Google has a near me after it.
Yeah.
So you can always do that. And Tom and Angie have found local groups by that way. I found therapy work through obedience classes because I had an obedience teacher who actually had therapy dogs and began the group we have now. And so that was a nice in for me. And I think I saw some heads nodding. I think a lot of people can find them through obedience teachers. Especially if you have these really positive, as most instructors are these days. I would also ask around. You'll find that many libraries do read programs for kids on Saturday or after school. So if you happen to be at a library and see somebody walking in with a dog wearing a vest, you'll know that you might snag that person and ask them, or they can write to any of us and we'll help them.
Yeah.
Great, great. Thank you very much. So now we're going to open it up to questions. So sorry I interrupted you, Jessica. Go ahead and ask your questions.
That's okay. My question is actually related to, we're trying to go into, you know, dog ownership, Otterhound ownership with the intent of potentially having a therapy dog. Is that something that you can look for in a puppy, or is it really something that you just get your pick and then hope for the best? I guess looking signs for the empathetic pup, and then from experience, is it necessary for desensitization to start at birth with the breeder, like for example with puppy culture, or is it possible to start after they come home around 8-10 weeks? Sorry,
I'll take that one. I think it's really important. I think you're going to have a good breeder. I assume you're going to get a breeder of merit from the Otterhound Club.
yeah,
And so
we
you're going to
haven't
have a
picked
good
them yet.
breeder
We're
that
looking
knows
for
how to
a few.
raise puppies, I hope. And I don't know, not all breeders, but a lot of them will have an outside person come in and do a temperament test when the puppies
Great.
when the puppies are 7 weeks old. At 49 days is the best day to do a temperament test. And you can ask the breeder if they're going to do a Volhard temperament test. And you can look for the findings from that test to see which dogs might be the best candidate, and ask them to match you with one of those puppies. And then when they come home is when you really start doing your own. And honestly, what you really want to do is you're going to work on teaching them manners and teaching them to be focused on you and other people. And that's the primary part of teaching a therapy dog, because most of it comes down to whether they're going to naturally have empathy and want to be with people.
Yeah, I agree. I would tell your breeder exactly what you want to do with your puppy, because a breeder who watches puppies for the first 8 weeks of their lives I do the Volhard test, but you know which one is the cuddler, the empathetic, you know which one is full of energy, is the explorer, and nothing's going to hold them back from following its nose. So I think I I love it when somebody comes up to me and says, I want a puppy and I want to do this with it. And if they don't, I usually say, what do you want to do with your puppy, or describe your ideal puppy? And then when you take it home, you take it everywhere. Some people want to wait until they have all their shots. And I start taking my puppies out the minute they come home.
Same.
And I take them mainly to people who like dogs, because then it's all real positive. Otterhound puppies can get car sick. So don't let that dissuade you. You just put newspaper all over there and take your paper towels and you take that dog out and they will get over it. But that's the most important thing you can do, is take it out, let it interact with friendly people.
Socialize, socialize, socialize.
And when they say that, take your puppy when you go for ice cream. Take your puppy for ice cream. Get your puppy a little ice cream cup. When you go to Bass Pro, take your puppy. They accept dogs in there. Take your puppy to Lowe's. Take your pup to Home Depot. I take my dogs in Walmart. I mean,
I'm going to say I would caution on that one, because that is not legal. That's, you have to be cautious where you take your puppy indoors, because that's not, if it's not a service dog, it's not legal, and it sometimes causes issues. So just be careful with that. Make sure Home Depot is a good place. They usually allow dogs, and it's really obnoxiously loud. And
We gotta,
yeah. My Walmart allows me to bring my dog in, and they know she's a therapy dog. I don't play the whole service dog thing. But
yeah, well, I mean, because
should've
therapy
said
dogs
that.
do not have any legal right out in public. They can only go places they're invited. They're strictly, they have no legal rights.
we gotta,
And the other thing is, take your dog to train stations. Take
Yeah.
your dog, so that the train comes in, everybody gets out of the train. That's really, those are the things. Let them stand there when the fire department or the ambulance goes by.
Mhm.
So they're used to that kind of thing. That's what I would do. And I would very much tell your breeder from the get-go exactly what you want in an adult dog.
Is
Oh,
it necessary to look for that in the history, in the parentage, or is that not as necessary?
might not,
I don't know about the rest of you. I would say, what are the parents like?
Yeah.
What are the grandparents? If you know that this person's dogs, mom and dad, or mom or dad and grandma have all done therapy work, that's nice. But hey, we all know that we're the best people among our siblings, and the others just can't measure up to us. So not everybody in the litter is going to be just as great,
Yeah.
A couple other things that I would recommend or suggest. I know a lot of dogs get freaked out in closed spaces. So as your dog is a puppy, take them in elevators. I'm sorry, not escalators, elevators. Because a lot of hospitals, you're going to encounter an elevator and you don't want to be walking up 16 flights of steps. So an elevator is something, when I went to the hospital to see my breeder's father, who was 85 and had Irish Wolfhounds his whole life, he was completely impressed because he thought we were going to be walking up steps, and he was like, what, she's going in an elevator? I'm like, yeah. So he was impressed with that. Another thing is, I highly recommend, and I'm sure your breeder is going to highly recommend it, but everything, I shouldn't say everything because Joni probably will say no, but mostly everything they're going to teach you in puppy class is things that they're going to tell you that you need to have as a passing grade for your therapy dog. So
Absolutely.
you're going to learn leave it. You're going to learn stay and down and sit. And puppy class is the most amazing class you could possibly take your dog to when it comes to socialization, number one, and learning all of the little things that the puppy needs to know in order to, and then you just kind of, you got to build on that for the whole year until you do your training. Yeah.
In general, I think the more different things you expose your dog to, the
Yep.
less likely they are to freak out when something new and different happens.
Yep. And
I
the
would-
other thing, the one other thing that I wanted to say is if you guys have, if you have a parades, we do a lot of parades in our town, Halloween parade. We do parades when our little leagues hit the World Series or do the state championships. The fire trucks take the kids around town, and it's the fire sirens, and it's the ambulances, and it's the screaming kids, and it's all of that. Take your puppy to every parade and everything that you can possibly do, like Eileen said, with the ambulances and the fire trucks and stuff, because that's the kind of desensitizing that they need. We
Yeah.
we go in the parades, and we take the dogs in the parades.
That's amazing.
I was gonna
We're
say
hopefully
that
gonna be
too, when
looking
you're-
at working with mental hospitals and retreats and things like that to help in physical therapy and with PTSD. Is something I'm very passionate about, and so that's what our main focus is going to be. But the parades thing that's a fantastic idea.
Yeah, just a brief thing on the parades is I don't bring mine to parades because they don't mind the fire trucks and all the people, things like that, but they very scared of the bass drums, the people drumming as they walk down the street.
Good point.
Boom, boom, and they want to go. They just don't like that. So that's just, different dogs and different things.
Yeah,
Well, thank you for answering my questions. I really appreciate all of you so much. This is a fantastic panel of people.
Good
One
luck
thing
with
that
your puppy.
One thing
Yeah.
that I add for you too is when you're training that puppy, think of all of that puppy's senses. So have it walk over all different textures, have it walk over a tarp, have it walk over grading, have it walk in wet things, dry things. Think of all the different things you can expose it to, smells,
Yeah.
stepping on things. Think of all of its senses when you do it. Because the more you can expose the puppy to and imprint those things on as being all okay, the more that when those things come up as an adult, they're going to take it in stride and be fine with. That's probably my most important thing. And listen to your breeder. So I've had many people that have thought, no, I want the pink puppy, or no, I want the red puppy, when that red puppy was not going to be a therapy dog or a working dog or whatever. That breeder spends 24/7 times 10 weeks with that dog. So they know a puppy more than anybody else. So even if you think that on a video, you think that maybe that one puppy is going to be the one, listen to your breeder, because they know what's best and they want what's best for that puppy. And they're the most important person to listen to in that regard. And just get your puppy interested and used to everything you can possibly think of getting.
I think, yes, very good, very good. And one of the things I'm just going to interject, we do a test where the evaluator has to hug your puppy, what we call the restraining hug, and get your dog used to that, because
But we will. That's not a problem.
are very good at running up and grabbing your dog and hugging. Tuesday, people were hugging. Spirit and Higgins just came up, kids, and that's not every dog likes it. Most dogs don't like it, especially when it's not their owner. So I find Otterhounds are better at it than most breeds for some reason. My dogs go along with it pretty readily. My setter used to deal with it and with his head over here, like, I'm not getting near your face, but you can hug me. And I find that that's one thing that people sometimes get wiped out on.
Well, that's just real quick on that. I'll just say Wiley, she's calm and very nice, but she's very shy. So she does not like to be grabbed. She'll back up. So she's not going to be a therapy dog. She's just not that far in.
That's
She likes
not,
people, but she's just not if you grab her, she backs up and she doesn't growl or anything, but she just doesn't like to be.
I would say that she might not be a therapy dog for mentally challenged children, because the mentally challenged children are the ones that like to grab and like I've had a lot of problems with trying to explain to them, you cannot, you can't grab her by the tail, or you can't grab her by her ears, or you can't grab her and try to take her, because they'll say, I want her, and they'll grab the collar and try to take off. And it's I don't personally have kids, so it's hard for me to, be like, don't do that, but I do go to mentally challenged things, every once in a while, workshops with mentally challenged children in a school district that's down the road that I'm friends with the teachers. So they know I don't know how to approach that stuff. I want to protect my dog. So I'm in the business of protecting my dog and my teammate. So they're in the business of keeping their children under control. So that's the way that we handle that.
Yeah.
Well, that's totally, as a handler, that's totally your job. That is your job, is make sure that your dog is safe. And I have to be honest, I worked in schools for the last 20 years with my therapy dogs, and I've had fewer issues with the special needs kids than I have with the general ed kids. I've had intact males for the last 20 years, Otterhounds. And that has been a problem with 2 of them. And it was both times it was in just a regular classroom. And because the special needs kids know, they get the lecture and they get told, don't do it, don't touch, privates are privates. And in the general ed classroom, they all think they're really funny. And 2 of my dogs got grabbed from behind and in the general ed classrooms. And it was, I tell you what, that was my job, which was get your hands off my dog right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are your dog's protection and advocate.
Yeah.
We're working with a trainer who's very, that's her number one thing, is that you're there to protect your dog. You're there to understand your dog's needs and to meet those needs.
Trainer.
So,
Yeah.
Excellent.
So are there any other questions?
When are
no,
you getting
I can't thank you all enough though. Oh my
When are
gosh,
you
this has
get-
just
do you-
been,
Are you getting a puppy soon, or?
we don't know right now. We have not fully committed to we haven't picked our breeder yet.
Okay.
We're hoping to get a puppy soon though. Number one for us is getting Fenton though. That's number one thing that we feel that we need to do first. But we're really excited. I've been kind of jumping in feet first and just immersing myself into Otterhound culture, and it's just been a blast. And
That's
it's
the way to go.
it's
So we'll
funny,
see you
I
at
told my husband, I was
nationals.
like, sorry.
So we'll see you at nationals.
No, I wish. We're a little too COVID conscious right now for me to go to nationals right now, but maybe in a few, and maybe next year.
And remember, it doesn't matter if your dog has, high ears or a funny bite or a silly tail.
Yep.
Your
Yeah,
dog,
personality matters
you
most to
want
us.
the true Otterhound temperament, and
Yep.
that will be a beautiful dog no matter what.
Yep.
We're very excited. Thank you all so much. This has been just a wealth of information and so much fun to listen to you all and hear your passion for it. So I really appreciate all of you. And I can't wait for other people to listen.
Good. And
hope
let
they-
us know when you get your puppy.
Oh, absolutely.
Pictures.
So thank you, everybody. It was a great Otter Talk. I appreciate all of you on the panel. I appreciate the guests. I'll have it on YouTube in the library, and I will send an email when I do that so that you can access it and share it. So with that being said, I'll turn the recording off right now.